Hello everyone and welcome back to Painting with Martin. Today we're back with another really quite unusual video, and I'm going to be painting the Terraforming Mars Rover. It's a first player marker that is kind of like an extra you can buy from Fryxgames website, and it's of course for the board game Terraforming Mars. It's the regular player marker. It's just like a cardboard token with a 1 on it. And by using this one, you can really upgrade your game. Terraforming Mars is a phenomenal board game. I've played it many times, and now even has a dice game called Terraforming Mars, a dice game. And so we'll get straight into it. This is doesn't really have any pictures, and so I took a little bit of actually going to NASA's website, and this rover is called the Perseverance Rover. You can actually see it on some of the card art on the cards in Terraforming Mars, but I don't have the game. I usually use a friend's copy that when I play it, or I go to my friendly local board game pub called Drix, located in Haifa, Israel. So this one is going to be using, I primed this one using a primer called Surface Primer from Vallejo. And it takes about 24 hours to dry and set, so we're going to get it straight into it, and we're going to use, first of all, to paint the road wheels and some of the structure using a color called black from Vallejo, mixed in about 50-50 with German grey, also from Vallejo. I'm going to thin this with a little bit of water. I'm going to put it out here in my dry palette. This is the German grey here. It's a very dark color in general, but I don't want it too dark when I'm painting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in just a little bit of black, about like this. Then I'm going to take a size, quite fairly large size, this is size 8 brush even. Might even take a smaller one. Let's see here if I have another one. Yeah, well, we can actually try with a size 8. Normally you would try with something like a size 3 or something like this, but this one should be fine as well. If it's too large, I'll just switch. And for the road wheels, it doesn't really matter, because that's what we're going to start by painting. As long as you've got a fairly fine tip brush, you'll start by painting the road wheels, as you see here. And if you get paint on the surface, don't worry about it. We're going to cover that later on. And of course, try to get the road wheels including the inner sides of them here. And of course the back sides. Also cover the superstructure here when it comes to the sides here. I'm going to painting one side at a time here. And if you make mistakes as you go along, as I did over here, not a problem, we can fix that as we go. And I'm going to see if I can angle the miniatures you can see here. And I would really believe it really upgrades the experience of playing Terraforming Mars when you have a proper player marker, because in this game you can really feel that I don't really know whose turn it is, but by having this rover here, you can actually see like, oh, it's Pete's turn, or it's Amber's turn, or whoever it is. Make sure that you paint the whole like bars here, making sure you get the underside of it as well, and the other side, the top here. If you haven't had the chance to play Terraforming Mars, the board game, I highly recommend it. It came out a couple of years ago, and it's a huge success for the company called Fryxgames. I happen to know the designers as well, and I met them a number of times. They're really nice people, and it's a family company, so it's not owned by any large corporation or anything, at least not yet. So I'm turning it around. I'm going to paint the other side here as well, and it's fairly easy to get the road wheels done, and I'll show you where it's going to get a little bit tricky. And don't forget the kind of like bars holding it all together here. And if you're worrying about some noises outside, it's because there's traffic or some cars blaring their horns or something like that. Hopefully you can't hear too much of it. Don't forget you have the inner sides here of the wheelhouse, I think you call it. You can like move around with your brush a little bit. As when you start painting the base of this one, which I'm going to do in a bit, that's when that's what really brings out this one, and I'm going to show you a really special way of covering the base, not just the ordinary. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and I'm going to show you a nice neat trick of how to get it. You're going to have to paint the inner sides of the wheels inside here, and that's by you taking a long brush and simply dabbing it around. Try not to hit the other sides. By hitting the double sides, putting it inside, dabbing it around a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but by angling the miniature and by also getting it in different sides here, I'm angling in the back here, you can actually get it so you cover everything. And this is important because the road wheels have such a large focal point of the miniature, so you want to make sure that both front and back are covered entirely before you move on to the other parts. And we're moving around, angling it here, making sure we don't miss anything. Sometimes you have to angle it like this and get it inside. Here I got a little bit of paint to it, and that's fine because that's also what we are going to paint. I'm sure it was all intentional. And here I try to angle the miniature so you get the inner sides here of these bars. And the front where you can hold it, or holds it all together. Now here's where I'm going to show you a close it up for you. This thing here needs to be painted black as well, or the black dark color, as well as the wheelhouse too here. Looks quite okay. A little bit of missing here that I'm trying to get it to before we move on to the next. It looks quite okay already. Now let's go into some of the details. This kind of black, see how this black thing here needs to, or this pipe here needs to be painted in the same color. And if you think I'm making a mistake or I should paint something in a different color, try to tell me in the comments. The little area here also needs to be painting this color because it's going to be painted with metal afterwards. Try to make sure that it only covers this section. Now you have a little thing around the camera, also going to be painted in this color here with black, just around the camera here. Let's see if I can angle it here for you. And just a little bit around. Of course, a camera lens. Now here's where it's going to get a bit tricky. All the beam part here, part of the camera arm, are going to be white, but all the kind of like where it like joins together, I think that's how I'm going to call it, they're going to be painted in this color too. So it's fairly easy when you get a hang of it. This is the third rover I'm painting. I did a painting video for a board game channel called Board Games Anonymous a while ago, because the board game has existed for a long time. And then what happened is that I think I improved my technique a little bit. So that's why I'm shooting the video on my own channel, because I wanted to get it done. And this is something like a really popular board game that I really like, so I thought I'd give it a go. Don't forget the other side here. And the undersides. You can easily come back to this one later on if you made mistakes or you feel like, oh, I didn't cover it as much as I wanted to. Now with these ones, you're going to cover a specific part of the camera arm here. You're going to cover this part here with some white, some black. Same thing with this one top here, as well as any lens that you have on the bottom here. I'm going to try and zoom in here for you guys to see. That's one lens here. That's another lens over there. Of course, this part here. And also there is a small dotted lens there. Another dotted lens there, just a small dot. And of course we've got the joint arm here as well that needs to be taken care of. As well, we have kind of like the joint up here as well, down here. Hopefully you can see that, so I'm not getting it off camera again. And don't forget you've got this one here. And you can also paint these like little cables here. They're going to be painted in copper, and you can try to get it in black. I'm just going to experiment this one because I haven't tried this technique before. And then we also have got this little wheel, this little joint here. Hopefully I'm trying to angle it for you guys so you can see it, and not the top superstructure here. But we'll angle it again so you'll see it. It's a little bit hard. I'll show you if I can undersee it. It's in this part here, this area here. And of course we'll angle that back over here, making sure that it's nice and smooth. Trying to see if there's anything that I need to cover more. Yeah, a little bit here of the wheelhouse of the wheels. Trying to cover these things as I go along. A little exhaust pipe here that we can just briefly just touch. Don't have to cover it entirely. Of course, and then we've got one final thing, I think, and that is the inner sides of the kind of a shield up here, which is the top here and the inner sides here of the like the small sides inner. And this thingy here, hopefully you can see what I painted up here. It's not entirely necessary to do this ones. Also going to paint these ones, but it gives a little bit of a contrast towards the rest of the miniature, to have not it all white or just in a bright color. So we're leaving this one to dry a little bit. Cleaning my brush in the meantime, and then I'm going to show you what to do next. What we're going to do next is we're going to cover the entire thing in Nuln Oil, including all the superstructure, the entire thing except for the base. And once this one is dried, it's you just apply it, and that's easy. I'm going to put this one aside, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. So this is what it looks like when it's entirely done. Quite nice looking when the Nuln Oil has been applied. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use a series of dry brushing to make sure that it's not that grey looking. So we're going to do some Vallejo's Cold White. We're going to apply it in our palette, and we're going to use an oil brush for this. It doesn't have to be a dry brush, but it can be something like an oil brush like this, because dry brushing is what you do. You put a lot of paint on your on your brush. Oops, sorry about that. And we wipe most of it off on a piece of kitchen towel. You want to make sure that it's like almost all of it is out, because you want a really light dry brush on it. So we'll start off by dry brushing the camera thing here. We start by, and you try not to touch the white part, the black parts too much. And it gives a nice edge of like, because as you can see here, the wash or the shades actually did a pretty good job of actually showing all the shadows and things like that. You really wanted to pool in the recesses, but you don't want it to pool too much. So I'm gonna put some more things here, and I can be a little bit of a heavy dry brusher here now. And it's also a good way of covering up any mistakes that you might have made. Try to be careful when you're dry brushing around the more delicate parts of the model, such as the arm here. You might want to hold on to the arm like this, so it doesn't really it doesn't break or anything. So turning it around, holding the finger like this can be quite useful to stabilize the model. A little bit too much there, but that's okay. Can have a little bit of frontal sun here, and then as you go along you can add more and more to the dry brush to make sure you build up the layers. And that's an easy way of like coloring it without actually adding color to each individual parts. And again, you add more and more color to the dry brush. Turning it around. And you want the focal points to be the camera up here, so that one is going to be painted white in a bit. But I wanted the dry brush to be done in the meantime to make sure that you've got a lighter color to it. Now, when this one is done, you can see that it's touched the parts here of the darker parts, so to say. But we're going to go back and we're going to actually paint the with some pure white, and we're going to cover the camera house. You're going to cover the camera house only which we call edge highlighting. We only want the edges here. And oh, that was my phone. Oh, my watch telling me that I probably should go out. And here we can also do some edge highlighting to see the focal point of the arm here, leaving some of it in the shadows, leaving the shadows fairly shadowed already. Anything where the sun can shine, that's where you want it. As you can see here, there's some parts I forgot to paint on the other model, but I'm going to try to cover it up as I go along. Here again, I want this part here a little bit more focal points, so I'm choosing where to place it. I want this one, also want this one. They're not really any right or wrong here because it is a model, you know, from NASA. It's not like a board game like where you have an exact figure. Here I'm trying to paint only the center and also the center of this one, as well as these two here. And then you can see exactly where the light is going. You might need one or two layers of this one, probably more than like 2 or 3 layers maybe. This one I want to paint fairly white, and as well as this one here. I'm not using that much paint on my brush to make sure that it's not crystal clear white. And you can touch this one up as you go along as well. If you feel that you've covered something too much, or you can go back to shading it with some Nuln Oil, which I might do later. But for now it's looking quite okay. The model is looking fairly alright. We're going to continue our dry brushing, but we're going to do that with another brush. And for that brush we're using a smaller dry brush, which is specialized for this one. And I'm going to use the same black color as before, as we used for the wheelhouse and the wheels, and use that to cover up any mistakes we made for when we painted the white over. And that means if it's going to be whited over a little bit, we use a heavy dry brush with more paint on the brush to cover it up, as well as here and here. As well as the wheels, making sure they're not too dark as well. Here you can definitely see I made the mistakes, but also make sure that they are a little bit lighter than the other. It gives it a slightly slightly different tone here. And so there you go. It looks quite okay. Still is looking very, very white, so that's why we are going to clean our brush, of course, and we're going to start applying with a smaller brush this time, much smaller. We're going to apply some silver details. So we're going to use some gunmetal for this one. You can use chainmail silver. This is from Vallejo. You can use chainmail silver if you like, also possible. But in this case, we're going to paint over we're going to go into some of the details now. So first of all, we're going to use this one for the silvery details here on the main console, or whatever you want to call it. But I want to make sure you also keep some of the German grey mix in the shadows here, so you don't cover all of it. You could also dry brush this one if you like, if you prefer it. You also prefer to use this one all the lenses. There's some lenses underneath here. I chose not to paint these under lenses here, simply because I wanted them a little bit lighter, and this lens here I wanted darker, so like this. And then I'm also going to paint the lens underneath here. Any lens here, the lenses here are kind of like, you know, what makes or breaks the camera, so I'm going to try to keep it fairly as close as I can. I'm going to paint these ones with a little bit of silver as well, and then I'm going to use some dry brushing on some of the metal parts, such as the wheelhouses here. And that's why, not the wheelhouse, sorry, the camera arm like joints here. Then I'm going to use that also on a little bit on the wheels, giving them a little bit of silvery, and I used this one also on the chimney here, or I think whatever chimney, I don't know what it's called. Also using this one on any details up here. Now I'm switching this one, and I'm going to apply another color from Citadel called Hashed Copper. Recommend to give this one a good shake beforehand, because a lot of pigmented colors. And now it's time for some other colors, which is copper, of course. And the copper has some like cables here, and you're probably going to need 2, 3, or maybe 4 layers here, because it's a very it's hard to use this color. But as you can see, it already starting to look much better. You can use this one over here as well. And you can use this one too on some of the cables on the sides. You can also dry brush it if you like. And also you can use it on some of the cables on top. And it doesn't really have to be 2 layers here, just like a tiny shine of copper is all you need to really brighten up some of the areas here. As you can see here, it's quite nice. And you can use this one for the other side here, like a tiny glint of copper, to signify that there is something else here on this one. Don't forget the other side here on the front. There's some more cables. All right. And before I forget it, there's a small details of some gunmetal as well on these individual small lights here. And the front can be a bit tricky to get to, but with a little bit of practice you'll get the hang of it. You can also add a little bit of steel here, as well as some small details to this one here too. Don't forget this little wheel, this little thing here, as well as on the other side. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering about the base, and we are going to cover the base in a little bit, but this here has some tiny details that I really want to cover. Can still consider debating it. I think I might want to go for something called Essen Grey from Citadel, simply by giving it a slightly different appearance compared to the rest of the figure. And by looking at the art from online, you can see that this one is a little bit darker colored. So I want to make sure that I add some different colors to this one in between here, and that it's not the same color as the other grade black mix. Adding it neat. Don't forget the top. Something you could have done before as well. And as you can see here, I also forgot a spot here. Don't forget the other side. Okay, looking quite okay. I forgot the top camera as well, and we're going to paint it before I forget about it with a little bit of gunmetal. Like this. Okay, leaving it to dry. Going to come down to the inner wheelhouses. We're going to cover the inner dots with a little bit of white, using cold white from Vallejo, same color as before, and that's really going to make this vehicle stand out when it comes to the thing here. Just use a dot like this. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it really, really is, of course, optional. Try to get it in the center if you can. It's not that difficult because it's fairly large. It's not like painting pupils or the white of the eye, which I'm struggling with a lot. So something like this. If I turn it around here, angling it here for you guys, you can see, looks quite okay. Now we're going to go to the main focal point of this miniature, and that's going to be the base. And for that, I'm using a texture paint from Citadel called Martian Iron Earth. It's a very thick based paint. So on this one, I'm going to use my dry brush. It's very bad on the brush, but I'm going to show you how it looks like. And you apply it like this, and you can see it really, really contrasts beautifully over against the rest of the miniature. And if you get it on the wheels and the road, like the other parts of the vehicle, don't worry. It can actually go there, and it goes really well. It's like it's going to be kicking up dust or earth or something like that from the Martian surface. And it also covers all the mistakes we made before, that we dropped like wash or something like this. And turning it around. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who have subscribed to this channel so far. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It really helps me grow, and it helps me a lot. Like and share this video with your friends. Tell them how easy it can be to actually paint this miniature and paint other miniatures. And if you want to learn how to paint miniatures, keep an eye out for more videos of mine. I offer both basic painting videos as well as more advanced techniques. And same thing as before here, I'm trying to get in with the brush underneath the model, so make sure that all the surface is covered. And this is a nice paint as well, because it's when it dries, it kind of like cracks, and it leaves kind of like a very solid feeling of like this has actually been on Mars. And you have to angle the miniature as you see fit. Make sure you get all the details and not getting anything left white. You can even intentionally put some things on the wheels to make sure that you get the coverage that you want. And when you're done, when you think you're happy, I'm going to return and see if I can get a longer brush. And then you leave this one to dry for a good couple of hours, and then you can go back and seal it with some varnish. But before you do that, before you leave it, before you feel like you're done with it, I'm going to show you a few more things, a few tiny details that you can actually improve the miniature even further. And you can even apply a second layer of this one if you want to, if you feel it's not enough. So like this, I'm going to clean my brushes like this. And now there are a few tiny details I'm going to show you. And I'm going to use some chainmail silver on the lenses of the camera to make them pop even more. And that means I'm using a tiny brush, size 0. You can also use a size 00 or 000, and you don't need that much. Just make sure that you get the lens here. Don't forget the top part of the lens here as well. Should be fairly dry by now. And the side lenses. And of course the lens for the camera here on top. Small lenses underneath. as well as also any of the lenses here in the front of the vehicle that we struggled a bit with. And any other area, you can also use this area here with, hopefully I won't cover the hand here, making sure that it's like really standing out here with some silverish. So before we're done, we also have to paint the rim of the base, and for that I'm going to use the same color as we used before for the wheelhouse. Mainly need 2 or 3 layers to get a good even coverage. It really completes the Terraforming Mars Rover, and making sure that it really stands out on the table, and using very few colors for this one. So there you go, you have it. And I'm going to put this one aside and the other unfinished model too. So this is what you got. Terraforming Mars Rover. And putting this one aside, making sure everything is here. This is what it looks like when it's drying. And turn it around here for you a little bit. And I'll see if I can zoom into zooming in here a little bit more for you guys. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this kind of videos, if you want more, please consider liking, sharing, as I said, subscribing. It won't really miss any more updates. I'll be going to Essen Spiel this year, so if you want to go and say hello to me, you can also do so in hall next above hall 3 in Europa. There is a hall up there, taking escalators up, and I'll be there at least from 4 o'clock on Saturday in, I think it's October 5th, yes. So if you want to say hello to me, I would love for you to do so, and I'll be happy to meet my fans. Otherwise, until next time, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you then.